Dr. Charles, aka CoachMD. In my 30 plus years as a medical doctor, I've made it my goal to help you create a great life by achieving a strong mind, a healthy body, and an unshakable spirit. I'm really excited to bring you a 4-part series on relationships. In my career and in my life, I've noticed that the 3 biggest trip-ups for all of us happen to be money, health, and relationships. And of course, as a doctor, people come to me for help with health issues. But what many people never realize, that a lot of those health issues were actually related to money and relationships. So I'm really excited to bring the first part today of this series on relationships, because it has impacted so many of my patients over the years and so many of my family and friends, and personally, of course. And if we don't understand or take control of our relationships and enjoy them, have enjoyable, healthy, empowering relationships, it really does impact our entire life, and especially our physical health. The first part today, what I'd like to talk to you about, is jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy are many times used synonymously, but they're actually 2 different entities. We often talk about being jealous or having jealousy. What jealousy is the fear that somebody else is going to take from you what you already have. Whereas envy is desiring what somebody else has. Jealousy, therefore, takes 3 people to exist, and envy just takes 2 people, you and the person from whom you want what they have. We've heard a lot over the years, and of course, going back even eons to the 10 commandments. The 10th commandment is, thou shalt not covet what my neighbor has. Covet is envy, not jealousy, because coveting is desiring what your neighbor has, whether it's your neighbor's wife in the Old Testament, the 10 commandments, whether it's your neighbor's house, whether it's your neighbor's farm animal, whether it's your neighbor's tractor trailer, it doesn't matter. And jealousy often rears its ugly head in relationships. And that's when, for instance, let's say you have a romantic relationship with a man or a woman, somebody else comes in the picture either now or from the past, and you fear that somehow that person is going to take precedent over your relationship. And that's jealousy. Well, neither one is a healthy emotion, of course, but it happens to all of us, to the best of us. And what most people don't think about, especially with jealousy, is that, jealousy and envy, what people don't realize is that every single human being experiences it, but just reacts to it in a different way. So for instance, you may think that the person from whom you covet or envy, let's say the person who has a lot more money than you have, you think, that person has it all. That person doesn't have any envy. Well, I can guarantee you that if you took that person privately and asked that person what they would feel, they would tell you that there are certain things that they envy. Why is it, for instance, you have multi-billionaires, let's say the top 5 people in wealth in the world, and they are striving to be number 1? Well, why are they striving to be number 1? Are they striving to be number 1 because it just feels good or whatever? No, that's because they have some envy with the person who has number 1. Maybe the person who has number 1 is more respected. Maybe the person who's number 1 has whatever it is. Most of the time we make these things up in our head anyway. So jealousy, on the other hand, is probably the most, I would say jealousy is the most destructive yet common experience in relationships. And I'll admit, when my wife and I have been married 31 years, but when we first started dating, I couldn't bear hearing about her previous relationships. it felt inside something, right? And that feeling of something inside is where you may have heard the terms green with envy, or the three-headed green monster of jealousy. Where does that come from? It comes from way back, Greeks. It comes from Shakespeare talks about it. But the idea of green usually means illness or sickness. And the bile, it was felt, the bile from the gallbladder or the stomach or whatever, that it's green. That's the pigment of it. It's green. And it was thought by the Greeks that people who had jealousy, were sick with jealousy, would have that back up, and that's how they would get green. But as I talked about with my own experience, that when I heard of her previous relationships, it made me feel sick inside. Like I felt it. I felt a visceral feeling inside. So where does it come from? Why do we get these feelings? Why do they exist in the first place? Why do they make us feel sick? Well, it all goes back to what I've talked about from time immemorial, the automatic brain. And that automatic brain, I like to make things quite simple. I like to use common sense. And that's how I thought about this and why I came up with this idea of an automatic brain, because it does make perfect, simple sense. The automatic brain, if you watched any of my previous videos, you'll know, only responds to danger. Doesn't have to be real danger, the perception of danger. And as I talked about before, there are actually three things that will cause everybody's automatic brain to perceive danger. And that is the danger of being one-upped. If a circumstance presents itself where we may feel inferior, that will cause that automatic brain to trigger. If we are going outside of our comfort zone, meaning experiencing something that's abnormal to us, unexpected, uncomfortable, that will trigger the automatic brain. The danger of possibly losing love, that will also trigger that brain. And what happens when the automatic brain triggers? Again, I like to break it down, make it common sense, make it simple. There's only two things that happen when that brain is triggered: fight or flight. Some people say freeze, but fight, flight, or freeze, no. The freeze comes when you're fighting and fleeing at the same time, and it paralyzes you, right? So these emotions of jealousy and envy actually are danger and represent danger. And what part of the danger do they represent? Well, jealousy and envy usually represent the possibility of losing love or the possibility of being one-upped. That's why you get jealousy and envy. It is an automatic, instantaneous, primitive reaction that every human being has. This is the idea that I want to drill home. It's so important. Every person has an automatic brain. Every person has a primitive nature. We have a divine nature also, which I've talked about in other videos, but the automatic brain, our primitive nature, we all have it, and that's why we get jealous, and that's why we have envy. So we get jealous. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone and you see that someone talking with somebody of the opposite sex, and you feel that feeling inside. Well, where does it come from? It comes from your brain being triggered, your automatic brain being triggered, that you're being one-upped by that person, or you have the threat of losing love to that person. So that triggers the fight or flight response. That triggers that feeling inside. That triggers anger and rage, because that's the face of the automatic brain. How about envy? Envy, when you desire what somebody else has, that you do that because that person potentially has one-upped you. It puts you in a lesser position. And when you're put in a lesser position, you're being one-upped, then you can be crushed, right? To the primitive brain. These are fake news stories that your brain tells you. And so it causes you to either flee that person, never want it to have anything to do with that person, but it also makes you have anger, possibly. And there's a German term, Schadenfreude, and Schadenfreude, you being so angry from that automatic brain triggering, that you actually want to bring that person down or cause harm to that person. These are so important concepts to understand what they are and why you get them. I have one bit of advice is that to strip away the power that your automatic brain causes upon you and stimulates all those negative emotions. You don't believe, trust, or take direction from any lesson or any instinct that automatic brain commands you to do. So that will be the start. I encourage you to leave your comments below. Tell me times when you've felt jealous, when you've had envy, and what you've done to overcome them, or how it's hurt you. So until next time, I'm Dr. Charles, aka CoachMD, wishing you to stay strong in mind, in body, and in soul. Bye for now. Dr. Charles, CoachMD. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like and comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If you think you have a friend who might benefit from this video, share it with them. For access to exclusive content, support my Patreon. There you'll get private access to videos, meditations, health tips, even relationship and financial tips. You'll have a say in what I produce and be able to participate in a monthly call with me. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you soon.